We are wicked wizards demanding the resurrection of the yellowed and blackened bones of forgotten masters of horror, science fiction, fantasy, and beyond. Subscribe, comment, like, or I'll send the vampire Helen to rip your heart out. Writers, poets, songwriters, reach out to us if you want to be part of our growing pile of bones. Writing, ghostwriting services on Upwork and Fiverr. We've had a 98% successful completion rate for projects. Contact links below. Children of Horror, Legion of Ghouls. Tonight we present Horror Master Dave Smith's Nasty Thing Inside. Enjoy.
Nasty Thing Inside by Dave Smith.
Venom kissed, alien caressed. The time of humanity's rule on Earth was no more. Human bones became the ageless dust of brilliant, shimmering stars. Epic of Saturnalia. 1. Why do you always do that, Norm? Run away from responsibility. A sultry voice belonging to an alluring brown-eyed woman questioned, then pivoted in incoherent sobs. You broke my heart. The video from Norm's not-so-distant past played on. He remembered, in the embarrassing moment, how he couldn't answer her. Besides, all his words would have done is outrage the girl even more to a bluster of tirades. Speechless, a rarity for the wiry man, he just sat with his mouth ajar, numb to her final inquiries. That was 6 grueling months ago. Replaying the video a few more times, recollecting, he decided to change course. Unlike before, in the actual conversation, Norm answered the girl's voice. Norm replied, pleading, whimpering, toward the video ghost. He admonished he had been rash with his temper. To the recorded memory of his ex-girlfriend, Samantha Silverberg, he apologized for his mistake. Though his voice stuttered even now after 6 months, Norm still longed for her, especially as he lay in his bed alone, enticed by her vixen form in her trademark red sequins dress, hot pink hair, and pearl necklace. Glowering, Norm smiled, remembering when things had been golden between he and Samantha, especially in their early courting. The love of his life, some of their friends had quipped braggartly. The girl, 10 all girls. Others had boasted brashly of the aforementioned dedicated bachelor. Watch out, Norm. This one has sunk her teeth into you. His best friend, Chuck Yiler, had warned, with his caterpillar brows lifting playfully. But for Norm, sadly, it had not been the case. The two would not become one after all. Surprisingly to all, even the demanding, incessant, seductive wilderness nut, Samantha Silverberg, Norm would be the bad guy. He broke off the engagement in the last place one would expect, on a romantic getaway far up in the Appalachian Mountains alone. Norm recalled as Samantha sobbed uncontrollably. She hit him rather abruptly in his chest as she cried on in disbelief. All this in their tent as the full moon rose high over them in the tranquil forest. Back in the moment, back in the cold loneliness of his room, Norm Hall murmured, You know, I hated camping in a tick-infested forest. That goes triple for trying to force me into bat-infested, highly diseased caves. You kept pushing me, Samantha, out of my comfort zone. I finally snapped. I didn't mean to hurt you. No one answered back as he replayed the video. After more than an hour of watching the woman who had caused him the most painful breakup of his life, Norm Hall sighed. He cracked his neck, taking a last glance on Samantha's angelic, gothic pale face. He traced the curves of her lips with his right index. He smirked, recalling her god-awful glowing hot pink hair. He laughed, a gallows laugh, humoring himself. Oh well, better to have loved than lost a tree hugger. It is far better than getting tick bitten. He turned off his bedroom light, pulled up his blanket, and sunk his head soundly to sleep on his emerald silk pillow. Spiraling kaleidoscopically into dream, he remembered something too late of any service. Norm couldn't remember owning any emerald pillows. "It burns!" screamed Norm Hall in the shadowed darkness of his room. "My God, it burns!" He screamed a second and third time as a blinding, white-hot poker stabbed into his brain. His blue eyes, in the throes of furnace agony, saw a blast of emerald flames. It was on the third throbbing assault of the worst headache in his life that Norm was jolted wide awake. Worse, it forced Norm Hall to plummet into the iced, alien chasm of his icy floor. Landing with an echoing thud on his side, he grit his teeth, in a fetal position, easing from the spasms of his headache. Norm massaged both his temples in a sluggish, circular motion. Nausea naturally followed after such blistering pain to his brain. Before he knew it, Norm Hall bolted toward the adjacent bathroom across from his bedroom. Falling to his knees, he gripped the sides of the porcelain toilet. With his knuckles white, vice tight on the rim, Norm felt his stomach churning and flip-flopping, readying to heave, to uproariously vomit. He directed his mouth over the bowl. Norm even considered, maybe I should make myself hurl, but I might cause the headache to return. Better to just let it be. He took a deep sigh as his heart slowed, adjusting to some sort of normalcy. His chaotic mind calmed as well. He grimaced, shaking his head perplexed. What is happening to me? He asked himself again as the room around him spun a little slower, the colors of everything becoming a little more vivid and focused. Unsure what his next move was, especially should he barf, Norm huffed, quite dejected now, and made damn sure of one thing. He kept his hands on the toilet rim. There were pearled tears in his eyes, caused from the searing fire that had erupted in his head. He wiped them. Norm continued to wait out the imminent vomiting. How long? He couldn't say. Eventually, he fell away from the toilet, with his back arched somewhat. He felt the chill of the tile on his buttocks and the grit of the plastered bathroom wall on his back. Norm sat on the floor, feeling the occasional twitch in his neck or slight cramp in his back as a result of the nightmarish headache. He took a relieved breath, continuing to sit across from the toilet. Streaks of sweat streamed down his leathered face. His head swirled less as he managed to focus his thoughts with a tried and true trick. He listened to the tranquil sea of hovercars moving above, around, and below his towering home. Even at the early morning, this hour, there was a squad of taxis and night revelers moving about. It was a long shot each time if listening to the melee would work to center his mind, but sometimes he could marginally distract himself from whatever the hell was happening. Listen to their whir, Norm. Listen and think of the tranquil beach in the moonlight. He calmed eventually after a few minutes. Reset mentally, Norm eased up, using the toilet to balance himself to his feet. He moved cautiously to the bathroom sink and clicked on the nearby switch. He winced at his wiry, bruised frame in the sink's mirror. His brow furrowed and his blue eyes narrowed as he stared on his 31-year-old face in the mirror's silver sheen. His eyes had dark, sunken circles. Those circles, signs of a week of insomnia, echoed volumes to him. Of course, he knew he had been pushing himself too hard burning the midnight candle. Here was the fruit of his misguided labor. Norm's health had taken a massive beatdown. It was evident in other things as well. In the rivulets of acrid sweat that now drenched him, in the unhealed wounds on his hands, legs, and arms. More so in the patches of dandruff, dark hair sticking haphazardly to his forehead. Yes, he had made himself a very sickly man, pushing the limits of his mental and physical endurance. But what? A few extra gold bitcoins in his wallet? Sarcastically chastising himself. Yeah, Norm Hall, you really done it this time. Norm touched the darkened circles under his eyes with his right hand. He let his right index trace the width and size of the growing dark circles. He peeked on the bloodshot lines in the irises. He made note of the caking eye gunk in each of his eyes' corners, wiping them carefully, contemplating grimly. Should I contact the AI doctor or catch a hover taxi to the ER? I mean, I did have the mother of all migraines. Though, weirdly enough, there's no more fire cooking my noggin. Thank the Lord of the sun for that. Norm walked out of the bathroom, still thinking it over. He looked on his black silk sheets. He spied his soft, goose-down pillow. He recalled the snug warmth of his blanket. He had already made up his mind when he decided. Oh, hell. The pain's gone anyway. Besides, the ER will be stocked to the gill with COVID-57 patients. Or something worse that Ajax can't kill. No way, Jose, do I want anything worse than this little migraine. An ounce of prevention and all, you know. Rest, especially at 3 a.m, is just what the doctor ordered. Norm climbed into bed and threw his blanket over him. As he shifted his exhausted head on his pillow, Norm glanced at the time on his bedroom wall's cybernetic display, flashing fluorescent blue. The numbers stated it was now 3:30 a.m. Norm yawned deeply and closed his eyes. Sleep, as a crashing wave on a moonlit beach, tossed him back into the spiraling, kaleidoscopic world of dream. All the while he slept, a sea of hovercrafts flowed above, around, and below his home in the neon-lit darkness. 2. Norm woke feeling as if his body and head had been bashed with a battering ram. There was no debate as the sun edged into his bedroom. His overall appearance, the massive migraine, and the muscle aches screamed for him to get a checkup. As if to confirm it with himself, he went into the bathroom, the same one just hours before where he waited to throw up, and took another discerning look at his health. Wincing comically, he made a voice that was one part Bugs Bunny, one part Elmer Fudd.
It's settled, normal boy. You need a quack to fix ya.
There was a medical hover car on every street corner in the year 2321. Norm's towering home on the outskirts of the megacity was no exception. 10 minutes after he dressed, a fluorescent purple two-seater arrived to bring Norm for his appointment. Stepping into the vacuum-sealed compartment and belting in, Norm thanked the AI system for its promptness. Minutes after the hover car departed, Norm's migraine blazed forth once more. Engulfed in a brief cranial fire, Norm's mind-numbing, nightmarish pain was as blinding as an emerald star. Lasting just under a minute, Norm knew he'd hurl this time all over the hovercar. Pleading, praying, screaming out, Norm sunk his fingers like claws into the dashboard. He tore nails on his hands, in doing so, sending out streaks of blood across everything. Screaming, pleading, praying, he roared, "Get me to the hospital now!" Robotic nurses and doctors were on the delivery deck to greet and treat Norm immediately upon arrival. As the team stretchered him into the advanced AI-ER medical facility, Norm provided as much as he could. Groggy from the new storm of headaches, his tongue garbled his words. The AI doctor, whose voice sounded like Leonard Nimoy or Harlan Ellison, take your pick, calmly asked, "What's the scale of severity of your head pain, sir?" Angrily annoyed, he was being asked an obvious answer to his headache. "Scale of pain from 1 to 10, you damn toaster? It's a goddamn furnace cooking my skull. Call it a 10 plus." Unbothered, the tall, gangly golden robot that could have been Leonard Nimoy or Harlan Ellison continued their cursory medical inquiry. "Did you pass out? Was there a funny taste in your mouth? A metallic taste before the onset of the headache? What were you doing when the headache occurred?" "I'll answer 2 questions at once, Buckethead. I was asleep in bed. I didn't pass out, and I wasn't doing anything because I was sleeping." Norm huffed and crossed his arms as he was wheeled into a scanner. "As for an aura or metallic taste, no weird taste, but I'm not sure on the seizure stuff. Everything was a cluster with my brain on fire." "Oh dear." The golden robot patted Norm Hall's forearm as if chiding him as a terrified child. More unsettling to Norm, the robot, who could have been Leonard Nimoy or Harlan Ellison, looked away sadly. He abruptly hurried to consort with his team. All of the robots, and even a few human technicians, pointed and lowered their heads at Norm. Norm put his hands out defensively and asked, puzzled, "What gives? Why are you all whispering and pointing at me like I'm a lab rat?" More questions badgered Norm. More inquiries irked him. More testing and more scans bugged him to tears. 4 hours. A battery of advanced testing and AI cross-referencing. The medical team were still deliberating their diagnosis. All the while, they poked and prodded Norm. He lay uncomfortably in a sterile white room, growing ever more nervous with no one giving him answers. Norm began to fidget as a child under the sun-glaring examination lamps. He tapped his foot, tapped his bandaged fingers, all the while awaiting grimly the final diagnosis and the hopeful prognosis of his condition. To no one in the tomb-like examination room, he grumbled dejected. When you get that apologetic stare, when they run this many tests, there's something wrong. I mean, really, really wrong. Dear Lord of the Sun, please don't let it be COVID-57. Norm was wheeled into a room with a digital display of all the scans performed on him. A woman sat at an oaken desk, a rarity these days, in front of the wall-sized scanning screens. A glowing nameplate on her desk and etched on her physician's coat announced she was Dr. Julie Campbell. Surprisingly, to Norm Hall, she was human, short, stout, wearing rimless glasses. Of a more curious note, Norm spied her left arm, right eye, and right ear were cybernetically advanced. With his wheelchair placed across from Dr. Campbell, Norm shifted in a tattered hospital gown in his seat. Impatient to get his diagnosis, Norm coughed abruptly to get the busy woman's attention as she pondered over more of his lab work. Norm half coughed, half grunted. Dr. Campbell squinted and frowned, annoyed. She looked up from the Bible-thick laboratory documents at him. Her look didn't scare him. Rather, Norm Hall was more puzzled by her gesture as she took her glasses off and rubbed her eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Hall." Her pleasant, apologetic smile, the smile he warned himself was bad news, made his pulse skip a beat. "Good morning, Dr. Campbell. When can I jet on out of here?" Norm half smiled back to her, pretending to be bored.
Soon, especially in a case like yours.
Dr. Campbell pursed her lips and put her hands together before continuing.
I don't know how else to put this. There is no point being delicate about it, Mr. Hall.
Norm narrowed his eyes, taking in the brevity of what Dr. Campbell was attempting to convey. He crossed his arms and leaned back in his wheelchair, acknowledging, okay. Dr. Campbell closed her turquoise eyes and sighed matter-of-factly.
You have an alien inside you.
Norm expected COVID-57, cancer, hell, maybe even herpes. But to himself he roared, "Yeah, this quack is nuts. Did she just say I have an alien inside me?" Doctor, could you say that again?" Sarcastically he added, "So I can add that in your report when they lock you up?"
I'm not touched in the head, Mr. Hall. Also, this is not a joking matter.
Dr. Campbell stood up, went over to several scans of Norm's brain to explain.
That's the alien.
She nodded. Norm watched in disbelief. The creature in the first photo was at the base of his brain, wiggling as a centipede or scorpion might in a burrow. In the second viewing, the cosmic wanderer had enlarged, with the centipede head elongated several inches in an emerald phosphorescent glow. "These are real?" Norm stuttered as he asked.
I'm afraid so.
More of the medical words that he hated to hear from a physician giving him a dire diagnosis. "Well, why am I still alive then?" Norm lowered his head, accepting the unacceptable. He seemed outside himself as he asked.
I'm going to be honest, Mr. Hall. I'm not an astrobiologist. My understanding is limited to one planet.
Timidly, she stepped from around her desk. Norm noticed, though she was trying to be empathetic, she was quite cautious and kept her distance from him. How am I not seizing right now or screaming in pain? Norm glanced from Dr. Campbell and out a sunlit window.
Easy enough, Mr. Hall.
Dr. Campbell stepped back to the wall medical screen and displayed several chemical structures, with the arachnid shadowed in the background.
Our team noted the alien upon your arrival. Golden One, the first to see the arachnid, that's what he called it, gave you octomorphine and dragon leech steroids to ease any potential flare-ups. It's a limited treatment, I'm afraid, due to toxicity.
Norm felt as if he was hearing her underwater. He wasn't sure if it were the powerful effects of the exotic meds or the shock of all of it. Outraged at his possible finality, in denial that this inexplicable and impossible diagnosis, he seethed under his breath. This has to be some goddamn mistake. I have been as healthy as a bull. I ran 7 miles just 3 days ago to keep myself awake for my current bridge project. The same bridge that I'll probably jump off. Norm grumbled as he looked back to Dr. Campbell. I thought all this alien parasite news was bunk. I was convinced it was just an urban myth to scare people from socializing, like
It's a real problem, Mr. Hall. I wish, oh how I wish, it were fake news.
She pushed back a strand of her graying blonde hair and slightly cocked her head to study him. Norm wondered if it was her attempt to console him, or was she continuing to study him like a damn lab rat? Norm timidly touched the back of his neck. He tried to feel bulges of arachnid in his neck or underneath the plates of his skull. Eerily, he ran his fingertips across his temples while looking up at the magnetic resonance images of each. He could detect nothing, but there was the ever-growing entity on the scan right where he had explored. Is there a cure, Dr. Campbell? Norm put his hands together as he asked optimistically. He shifted in his wheelchair, waiting for her to reply.
At this time, everything is experimental, Mr. Hall.
She took an exasperated sigh.
The treatments have been worse than leaving the creatures be. If it were just one species, our teams could focus resources. But, as in your case, there seems to always be another new one popping up. If you need to know, that's 100 or 200 people afflicted coming to the ER every few days.
What? What can I expect? He didn't know what else to ask the quack, who continued to study his response like a damn laboratory rat. Dr. Campbell leaned back in her large red leather office chair. The glint of her steel cybernetic gear in the sun was hypnotic.
Uncharted territory, Mr. Hall. The arachnid alien is a new one. Its planetary origin might be Saturn. Could it kill you or us if we removed it? Most certainly.
Great. I get the one alien no one knows anything about. What happens now? Obviously quarantine. Norm itched the back of his neck. The itching was unbearable right now. 3. Norm felt sweat dripping off his brows. He ignored the sweating. He heard clicking mandibles from some distant muffled place, but he couldn't figure out where. Then there was the emerald flames blazing across his eyes. But Norm Hall no longer feared the flames.
Some patients with a less aggressive species do fine.
Dr. Campbell raised a dubious brow as Norm continued to scratch his neck and now his scalp. She pressed a button on her desk as she continued.
Hell, some become alien augmented with special skills such as telepathy or telekinesis as a cybernetically enhanced human. Highly valued assets naturally to our society, though still not completely trusted for obvious reasons. Alien enhanced is still just that, a foreign invader to your body for whatever reason.
Norm later would recall in a tomb-like cave far up in a remote mountain surrounded with others. He heard Dr. Campbell's voice squeal as a pig as his hand uncontrollably launched as a striking cobra. His powerful hand, his alien-controlled hand, wrenched out her throat, sending a splatter of blood across his maniacal, leering face. Norm launched upward from his chair, still holding the tatters of Dr. Campbell's throat in his right hand. He tossed her lifeless form out her office window, sending the corpse and shattered glass falling everywhere below. His feet locked to the ceiling like a tick on a dog waiting to make his next move. Whether he let out that unearthly roar in Dr. Campbell's office that horrific day out of triumph or pure insanity, no one but Norm Hall could say. However, to this day, no one knows what happened to the arachnid patient named Norm Hall. All witnesses later would agree on that nightmarish sound. A growl coming up from the deepest crevices of his throat burst out like a hound from hell. Medical staff ran into the room, hearing the squealing scream of Dr. Campbell. The doctor in vain had tried to scream. No scream exited her ravaged trachea. In a final, futile effort, she clawed and tore at alien Norm's face like a feral cat. Alarms blasted and warnings erupted, scattering hospital personnel. Security teams rushed to locate the scurrying Norm, who attempted to climb into a second office for attack. For a moment, arachnid Norm careened to his neck, back to look down toward the lifeless corpse of Dr. Campbell. His writhing, segmented neck and wasp torso becoming more insect-evolved and emerald phosphorescent. Norm's eyes flamed alien green while he spoke in a coarse voice that was part insect, part human. He hissed in a guttural growl as glowing saliva dripped from his mouth. "I'm so sorry, Dr. Campbell. War is hell." The arachnid incident they called the day Norm Hall was corrupted by the Saturn alien parasite. That's what the humans called what happened to Norm. However, the Saturnian arachnids, those cosmic wanderers from the deep cave systems of the ring planet, would have at best described it as something more complex. It was the highest honor they bestowed on lower life forms, especially creatures they relegated to food. Their description would be more accurately a sharing of flesh and minds, and most incredibly, of souls. Yes, Norm Hall and the Saturnian arachnid had combined their immortal souls. Crack teams of robotic security and military forces mobilized to fight and kill the alien hybrid. This murderer of Dr. Campbell, and many, many more, had to be stopped at all costs, or humanity would surely fall to extinction or worse, enslavement. Therefore, whirring and rocketing drones launched from celestial towers to locate Norm. Clandestine land and rooftop robots patrolled the terrestrial terrain. Ships and submersibles surveilled blue seas, black bayous, and all manner of waterways. Throughout it all, the remnants of the human, once called Norm, rapidly continued to evolve, scurrying, clicking miniature alien mandibles, weaving between crevices in the shadows to evade its pursuers. It ran. It further horrifically changed. Humanity did their damn best to kill Norm Hall, the arachnid. Laser blasts missed it twice, scorching the wall of a nearby school. 10 electrofusion grenades sent fluorescent purple flames all about Norm, crushing a crumbled perch where he had tried to take a ragged breath and rest a minute. Blasted to earth, rocked into a writhing tumult down into sewage water of an abandoned waste treatment facility. Norm continued to writhe and screech with metallic peals of pain. Onward he screamed as he sank beneath the black, stagnant waters of the sewer on the outskirts of the city, eventually passing out. Norm Hall groggily awoke and surfaced hours later in pitch darkness. Looking about with 1,000 alien eyes, he realized by the piles of medical debris he had been pulled back into the city by water-pumping vortices, churning him along. Coincidentally, the tunnel he now scurried up to breach was miles beneath the original hospital he had sought treatment. Hidden in the last place the humans and robots would look, he allowed his final metamorphosis to complete. Red human blood transformed to fluorescent, viscous alien blood. Bone and muscle shredded and dissolved. Each of the former human parts became the shimmering walls of a monstrous cocoon. Within the crystalline green cocoon, Norm's new Saturnian exoskeleton formed and hardened. In arachnid dormancy, in kaleidoscopic alien dream, across vast vistas of cosmic evolved consciousness, Norm shed the last of his primitive humanity. 12 hours later, as roaches scurried past his pulsating cocoon, and rats attempted to gnaw at the emerald shimmering alien fibers, Norm had finalized his development. The arachnid had stretched and contorted to a formidable size of 20 feet in length. 5-foot-long organic crystalline, steel arms and legs, more than 50 on each side of his serpentine form, undulated in a larger centipede wave, readying to move toward a safer sanctuary. Even his skull elongated and flattened into a nightmarish version that any Geiger archetype would have recognized. As he broke out of his cocoon with his 6 rows of new, shark-like mandibles, he clicked triumphantly, sending the air for flesh and other more exotic forms of sustenance. Human, rat, and even fusion-powered robots, it did not matter, were the prey most desired, especially now at the aching ravages of hunger. Norm Hall had to eat. 2 voices, 2 minds, 2 souls, alien and human, assimilated into one, both creating a powerfully Earth-adapted new alien life form, both in agreement as full amalgamation of human tissue with Saturnian alien exopod completed, and the need to eat became an obsession.
We need our strength to survive. The longer we don't die, the slower, the stupider we become. Time food now. If they capture us, they will kill us. But death won't be the end. Literally, what they do to us will be hell on earth. They'll dissect us. They'll study us. They will never let us see outside a laboratory cage again.
An hour after his hunger ached his stomach into twisting spasms, Norm was awarded his meals. He chewed on the salted brains and skull of one foolish soldier. He dined on the fusion battery of a terrestrial robot that fired on him as he ate the human. The electrical glow of the battery's core lighting his insect form into a shimmer of pure emerald. With his heart racing as fast as his undulating centipede legs, the Saturn arachnid knew one thing as he ripped apart 2 more robots firing.
Get to sanctuary beneath the rock, the sea, ancient ice, Saturnalia.
As he burst out of the last robot and human perimeter set to stop him, it was clear he had to find more of his kind. Down into the furthest reaches of an Appalachian cave system, there must be other alien comrades waiting to gather up in the misted darkness.
What if there are none? What if the rest didn't survive the possession? What if they got killed?
Norm Hall and the Saturnian arachnid together rebuked such terrifying thoughts. His ancient people were cosmic survivors. The other Saturnian arachnids would be at the pre-assigned rendezvous. The alien knew deep in his 2 souls they had lived too. The arachnids arriving once found would need to coordinate as the collective they had been in the chasms of Saturn's vast cave systems. The landed dimensional parasites must gather and move further underground, undersea, and under ice toward the hailed north. There, protected by the geothermal core set up so long ago by previous visits, they would celebrate together. Metallic screeches, harmonic cheers, fluorescent tears of joy would echo in tower facades underwater, beneath rock, and in the depths of darkness. In the holy caves, where lay the golden city of Saturnalia, the ancient city would be repowered, relit, restored with the ancient engines from the stars. Beneath the ice sea, their space battle cruisers awaited in cavernous darkness to ignite. Deep in the chasms of infinite cold and lightless abyss, cloaked by stalactite, ice, and sea, the assault on humanity would proceed in haste. They would vanquish their foes faster than a comet blast. Saturnian arachnids would slither out salivating to dine exquisitely. Green glowing ooze would drip as the arachnids gnawed on salted brains, gnashed delicately peppered man flesh, and blazed brilliantly as emerald fires, euphorically ingesting robotic fusion energy. Satiated with their exotic cuisines, the Earth evolved Saturn arachnids would conquer the blue planet completely. Venom kissed, alien caressed. The time of humanity's rule on Earth would be no more. Human bones would become the ageless dust of brilliant, shimmering stars. The evolved arachnids would conquer, would desperately feed, and most assuredly rule Earth. But there was a bright side to all the doom and gloom of certain human annihilation. Norm Hall no longer feared ticks.
Thank you for listening. Have a great night.